like and subscribe, please.
Though it took me some time to figure out the place where you wanted me to be. Oh yeah, now I'm ready for love. Okay guys, sorry. Let's get right into it. Ready to Love, Reunion Part 2. It opens up where it did last week with Kyra and AJ. And Kyra finally lets us know she's through with AJ. Hallelujah. Amen. I'm tired of it. She said it perfectly. I think I said the same thing last week, where it shouldn't be this hard, right? It should not be this hard. If they were meant to be, they would have been, okay? Because it's been how many chances, how many opportunities. It's clear that this is not going to work. So I hope they go their separate ways and they find love with other people. So they get to Troy, right? And watching the package back of Troy interacting with the other ladies, he's really creepy. He creeped me out then. He really creeps me out now, right? And, uncle, nephew, uncle, he asked him, so what was going on with that? Why did you kiss all the ladies? Why were you promising trips to the other women? And he's like, oh, well, I normally wouldn't act like this, but since we're on a show and we have limited time, I was trying to make a connection. But then Amber's so great, she pointed out, well, then why did you say this was your signature move, right? And the way Troy came onto the scene, he made it seem like he was very comfortable with the ladies, and this is how he moves, this is what he does. But when he gets called out on it, he's like, oh, I'm normally not like this. So which one is it, right? And that's the creepy thing, really. That's the scary thing. Because I feel like some people will say whatever they need to say in the moment so they don't have to deal with their shit, right? Like, clearly this is what you do. And it's pretty clear that it is a game to a lot of people, but once you start breaking the touch barrier and you've known these people for 2.5 seconds, it's not a good look. I remember one point with Andrea, I believe, he was trying to unhook her bra. They didn't show that. They should have showed that and asked him, yo, what was that about? They were actually pretty easy on him. They could have went in deeper, okay, with this guy. He's just creepy. And then he's sort of proud of himself by the end of his little scene because he feels like he's taken accountability. No, you didn't. You just played dumb. You just played that you didn't know what you were doing. That's just complete nonsense. They let you off way too easily. So now, moving on to Andrea. And, they're making fun of her losing her cat, and I kind of feel bad because I know, some people, their pets are like their little babies. So, low-key, she probably was in here for uncle, nephew, uncle, Tommy, making fun of her losing her pet. But, it was kind of funny. And, with her, that's taking accountability, unlike Troy, because she did admit, I do have a wall up. It takes me time to really get comfortable with people, yada, yada, yada. So it seems like she actually got something from the experience. And, she has her date with Christian that she's so excited to go on. I doubt that. But she at least learned something. But to be honest, she didn't lose out because all of these guys, except maybe Jason, but even Jason has his little, he was quick with the kisses himself, if I'm going to be honest. But out of all the guys, maybe Jason is the best. But like Andrea, she did not miss out. She did not miss out on anything at all. So don't worry, girl, take your lesson and move forward with that. Ooh, Kyra and Jason, it got heated. I was kind of mad with Uncle Tommy. He kind of cut them off prematurely. because I feel like a lot happened with those two, and we didn't really get a resolution. And it's actually been a criticism I've had with him hosting the reunions with previous seasons, where it's like he doesn't want to see people argue, which is okay. I can understand why you want to keep things positive, but the reunion is a space where you're supposed to hash things out, right? And as an audience member, it's kind of frustrating when I feel like the conversation is ended prematurely and I don't really feel like they have come to an understanding. I don't know if they're going to come back to Kyra and Jason. That's why they're saving it for later. But I felt like it could have went on a bit more, even though I know it's probably edited and they probably went on longer than that. But that wasn't satisfactory to me. You know what I mean? So with the Jason and Kyra situation, I can see both sides of it, right? On Jason's side, it's just, I can understand you're on a dating show, right? And I know people are kind of like, oh my gosh, Liz wasn't your first choice. Liz is getting played and blah, 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 blah. But in real life, this happens. You can date multiple people and you may have feelings for multiple people in different ways. And I can understand that if you're going to choose between someone that you also like, that's reciprocating their likeness for you, versus someone who still seems unsure about what they're going to do, obviously you're going to pick the one that you're vibing with, and they also are vibing with you. With Kyra, you know, Jason was so right that you are very intellectual, but when it comes to your emotions, not so much, right? And yes, with love, with relationships, you do have to put yourself out there. You do have to take that risk. And a situation like this, I mean, you know, it's not real life where you can keep on dating multiple people for like, say, 3 months, 4 months, 6 months, and onward and onward. This is a reality show. I believe it takes like a month to film. So there is a time limit. At some point, you're going to have to make a decision. He's also going to have to make a decision. So if you're not deciding what you're going to do, then he might as well just go with the person that's into him as well. Because let's be real, if he didn't make that decision, if he chose Kyra, he would probably end up like AJ. And he would have been pissed. You know, he probably would have been in the same spot as AJ with her saying, you know what, if I'm going to commit to you, I gotta be sure. And it's like, girl, I mean, why did you come on this show? It doesn't really seem like Kyra is suited for a show like this. Because, yes, it is kind of fake and you are forced to make a decision maybe sooner than you would in real life. We all understand that in real life, you may date someone 3 months before you want to be in a committed relationship with that person. Absolutely nothing's wrong with that. And I don't think Kyra should be forced to make a decision if she's not ready to make that decision. But you came on ready to love, and this is how it goes. So I don't really think that Jason was necessarily malicious or playing Liz. I just think he went with someone that the stars just aligned with them, so he went with Liz. I do feel like Jason was into Kyra, and if Kyra was into him, then would Jason choose Kyra? I mean, you can play the what if game, but it was clear from the very beginning that Jason was into Kyra. And if Kyra kind of maybe was leaning towards him, then I think maybe there's a good chance he would have chose Kyra. Now, in Kyra's defense, I do get what she's saying about Jason. I do find that Jason was being very hypocritical, right? Just like he was potentially struggling with the choice between Kyra and Kyra and Liz. Kyra was also struggling with the decision between Jason and AJ. Now, I'm not sure she would have chose Jason in the end, But when it comes to Jason or AJ, I think she would have picked Jason, hands down. It would have been Jason, right? So I do think it's hypocritical of Jason to expect that so much from her when he himself was going between two people, right? And he should have just... I understand him being disappointed, but for me, he was way too mad about that. You know, he was way too angry, and not angry, but agitated. And the fact that he was so agitated shows me that he maybe would have picked Kyra. He was just waiting for her to confirm that for him. And that's where maybe I have a little bit more respect for AJ. Well, I don't know. Maybe I'm going too far with that one. But AJ chose Kyra, even though he probably knew that Kyra wasn't going to choose him. You know, even though Kyra didn't make up her mind, he chose Kyra because that's what he wanted to do. Because he easily could have went with Alexis, right? And he knows that Alexis would have been there for him, and Alexis would have chose him too, and they would have lived happily ever after, at least in terms of the show, right? But as for Jason, and some people may say that's the quote-unquote smart decision, but for Jason, he wanted that security. He wanted to know. And if I was Liz, oh my God, it was so awkward. I felt so awkward for Liz when, they're playing back the scenes between Jason and Kyra. I mean, if I was Liz, not to say if they're still together, I wouldn't say, oh, break up with him, right? But I would feel some kind of way because unlike AJ, Jason couldn't choose based on what he wanted. He just chose based on who wanted him. Some people may say that's smart, right? But whatever it is, right? If that's the way you're going to move, I don't think you have any space to be mad at Kyra or feel any type of way. There shouldn't be that tension between them like that if everything is all good. And that's why I feel like the scene should have went on a little bit more so they could have maybe came to that understanding and left in peace. I don't really think there's real beef, but I don't know, just the way it ended, I feel like we could have got a little bit more from that scene. David. Ugh. So they talk about David and, oh shoot, what's her name? I forgot her name. But they talked about the situation with David and the other lady in which they're talking about passwords. And if you're married, right, would you give your password to your spouse and blah, blah, blah. And the other lady, why can't I remember her name? I feel like it starts with an R. She talks about how, no, I wouldn't feel comfortable with that, right? There should be a level of trust. Why do you need all my passwords? And David was saying, well, in a marriage, you should be comfortable with your partner. You should have that trust where you can share your passwords and it shouldn't be a big issue, right? And when I first initially saw that scene, it rubbed me the wrong way, right? Because I don't have a good impression of David. He's kind of another one along with Troy, which is giving me the creepy energy, right? But when he kind of maybe explained it more during this reunion, he also did an interview with Little Black Book 91. Check out his channel. I kind of got what he was saying, but here's my thing, right? This is my personal opinion, okay? I don't think this is a conversation you should have on your first date, though, right? When you're talking about it on your first date, it does come off a little bit controlling, like, I'm gonna need all your passwords. I think when you're in a relationship, right, sometimes your partner may need to use your phone for whatever reason, right? Or if you have a laptop, sometimes your partner will need to use your laptop and they're going to need your password, right? And yeah, of course, you'll just say, okay, this is my password. This is what it is. I don't think it needs to be this big, huge thing where, okay, I'm gonna need this, write it down, give me a list of all your passwords, I'm gonna need access to this, and that. That's what it felt like to me, versus something that just happened organically. Like, if I needed to use my partner's phone and they're not telling me their password or whatever, or my husband's phone, and they're not telling me their password, then yeah, my antenna would raise up, right? I would feel a bit uncomfortable. But if I'm on the first date with someone and they're having this discussion, maybe it's just me, I'm gonna be a little put off by it. Because why is this such a big deal? Why is this such a big conversation for you, right? And even with this whole password thing, let's be real, right? If your partner is going to cheat on you, they're going to figure out a way to do it. Even if you do have their passwords and all that shit, they're going to figure out a way to cheat on you. Okay? Because they can text someone they're cheating on you with and delete the message, right? They can put their person that they're cheating with, they could put the person's name under something else, like mom, dad, or who knows what. Like, people are sneaky. People are smart. They can figure it out. So you knowing people's passwords, having access to their Instagram or whatever, is not going to stop people from cheating if that's what they want to do. Someone can go to work and cheat with their coworkers. You will never know. If you see their name on their phone, they could just be, well, that's my coworker, and they ain't lying. So this need to have people's passwords for everything, why? Like, it doesn't stop anything. It doesn't do anything. If they're gonna cheat, they're going to cheat. Now, like I said, if you need to use your partner's phone for whatever reason and they're not giving you the password, then of course that is a red flag. But having people's passwords doesn't necessarily mean you can trust them, or doesn't necessarily mean that they're gonna do no harm, right? It doesn't stop anything. And like I said, there's nothing wrong with having passwords, but to bring it up on a first date with someone is kind of uncomfortable for me, right? And maybe if David didn't do the things that he's done in the past with other people, aka Liz, I could brush it off and it would be no big deal. But given his history, like, he was a cheater, apparently the person he was with cheated on him, so it just comes off like he has trust issues. And in his mind, he thinks that if he has the password to things, that's going to stop certain things from happening. That's going to control for that. And no, having someone's password is not going to control for other people cheating on you. Like, that's stupid. So, remember when I didn't remember that lady's name? I know that lady's name now. Her name is Stacy, okay? And the word on the street is that Joel and Stacy maybe have something going on. I'm joking. Well, Stacy denied it, Joel denied it, so I'm going to believe them, right? According to Vern, that's what she heard, right? But whatever. Let's just get right into it. Joel and Vernisha, right? Can I just say this? Uncle Tommy, you're dumb. You're dumb. And anyone on the cast that is trying to, mend the fences and get these two back together, you're also stupid, and you need to leave Vernisha alone. Please leave Vernisha alone. She doesn't need to be with Joel. And when Vernisha was sitting on that couch saying, I don't know what happened, the Joel on the show is not the Joel after the show. I'm sitting here and I'm watching it and I'm like, actually, Vernisha, this is the Joel. Why can't I say this guy's name? This is the Joel that we've all seen. This is the guy. You are just the one that didn't meet him, but we saw him in the editing. We saw him clear as day. Like, maybe the first 2 episodes, I was rooting for Joel and Vernisha. I was. But I think it was the point when Joel said Kyra. That's when I knew that their whole relationship thing was not going to work out. It was pretty clear because the whole time, in his confessionals, with his family members, with other people. The whole time he was doubting Vernisha. The whole time he was saying, I don't know, Vernisha's moving too fast, I think she's too clingy. He has had doubts the whole entire time with Vernisha. So I don't know what the cast is talking about. Even that other guy, I forgot his name, Dietrich, I believe. He was saying, oh, come on, Joel really likes you. He's just afraid of you. Are you serious? Are you kidding me? How is that relationship going to work then? Right? Maybe Dietrich is projecting, because I remember when he went on a date with Vernisha, he was saying he was afraid of Vernisha, so he thinks everybody is afraid of Vernisha. Like, please, come on now. How is that relationship going to work if you're afraid of the person that you're dating? That's not going to work. So they should not be together. If he has trust issues or whatever he has, he needs to go work that out by himself. He doesn't need to be in a relationship with Vernisha. So everybody, I know, they look good on paper. They started off strong. Everybody wanted them to work. But what you want and what it is absolutely two different things. And Vernisha had it right. And I'm not saying Vernisha is perfect, right? Maybe she did want to go too fast. But listen, everybody's different, everybody has their own pace, but clearly they're not compatible. From the very beginning, Joel was not feeling it. And instead of just being honest about it, I think he played both sides. I think he ran hot and cold, and maybe Vernisha came on too strong. Maybe Vernisha was a bit jealous, right? But I don't think that comes out of nowhere. Maybe I'm biased because I'm a woman, but usually when you have someone, maybe on the surface they seem like the way they move is irrational, like her getting jealous of Stacy and her getting jealous with Amber, right? Maybe she feels like that because that's how Joel is. He flirts with everybody, right? He's giving everybody the time of day, and then with you it's like he's sort of backing off and he's not consistent with you. I remember during the show that Joel and Vernisha, they planned a date, or he said, well, if I'm not busy, I will meet up with you, I'll let you know, whatever. And then he doesn't say anything for the rest of the night, and Vernisha's like, what's going on? So I'm not saying that Joel is actually doing anything with other women, but just how he is and how he moves, I can understand how that can make someone insecure and unsure of where they stand, right? Now, I will say this, I do understand where Joel is coming from, right? With I may not be dating anybody else, but that doesn't mean that you're my girlfriend, or I'm going to rush to make you my girlfriend and have that commitment. I completely understand that, because I think so many times people are so quick to be boyfriend and girlfriend with people before they actually get to know the person, and then you're kind of stuck in a situation. You make that commitment and you're maybe stuck in a situation with someone that you're not really compatible with. But because you kind of made that commitment, and then I can also imagine if you have kids, you kind of joined your families together, that it's hard to get out of the situation. So I can completely understand, especially if you have children, right? That you don't want to rush into anything. Where Vernisha, maybe she wants things to move a little bit faster. And that's why I say the cast that's trying to push them together. And this is the annoying thing. You kind of rush through Jason and Kyra working things out, but then you want to keep pushing Vernisha and Joel together. Like, hello, Uncle Tommy, did you watch the show? It's clear that they're not compatible. They're moving at different pace. So why are you pushing them together? They don't want to be together. Both parties are just gonna get hurt. It's like the Kyra and AJ thing, right? Like, if it's not working, it's not working, right? Like, they shouldn't be struggling so hard at the beginning of their relationship. If they're struggling that much, then they don't need to be together. I'm pretty sure, maybe Kyra and Joel would have been a good match because they like to take their time. Some people like to go head first, right? people are different, so we just need to accept that. Because Dietrich, whatever hell your name is, you're not in that relationship. So you have no right to keep pushing things and speaking for Joelle. Joelle is clearly over it, right? Vernisha, maybe she's still on it, but she's getting over it. So let them go their separate ways, please. Because we all saw it watching the show. We all knew. David is so full of crap. He is. So he did an interview, like I mentioned, with Little Black Book 91. Check him out. And David's sort of explanation it was that he had called Liz the night before his quote-unquote elimination, and he had told her that, listen, Liz, I'm not really feeling it. We're not compatible. I think I'm done with the process. So, from his perspective, he didn't want Liz to eliminate him the next day because he felt like it was inauthentic and he wanted to tell his truth. So he wanted to speak first before Liz and eliminate himself before Liz did, because it wouldn't be real, it wouldn't be his truth, and yada 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 yada, blah blah blah, right? But if you're someone of integrity, right? Whether you eliminate yourself or she eliminated you, does it really matter? You know? Especially if you're this masculine man, she invites you to a place, right? She's trying to talk, and you won't let her talk. You cut her off. And then, not only that, in the middle of your guys' arguments, you lean in and try to kiss her on the cheek. And it's like, that's just totally inappropriate. You acted like a 12-year-old boy. You were so immature with that, right? And when he's giving his apology, he's not even saying, okay, sorry, you know what, I acted really immature, I did too much, I should have just let you speak. His apology is that typical apology that everyone is like, that's not a real apology, where I'm sorry if you felt that way. I'm sorry if you were offended by what I did or how I handled the situation. He's like putting it all off on her, like somehow she's overreacting, or like she misinterpreted the situation. And it's like, no, David, just apologize for your behavior. Your behavior was straight up BS, wrong. Right? Just own it. But he doesn't do that. And then, he goes and does the same thing. He can't just apologize. He can't just say, I'm sorry, I effed up. He gets up and he goes to give her a hug, which is already like, this man, he's coming off as aggressive, he's coming off as too much, and then he gets up to go and hug her. And Liz is a better person than I am, because one, I would not accept his apology because that was not a real apology, and two, I would have not given him that hug. I'm like, we're cool, I don't have any issues with you, but I don't want to touch you right now, right? So it's bad enough he goes and gives her a hug, but then he has to take it even a step further and do the exact same thing that he was freaking apologizing for by trying to kiss her on the cheek. Really? Really? And then she kind of leans back like, okay, buddy, that's a little too much. You're doing the same exact thing. And that shows me that he hasn't learned anything. He has a bunch of excuses. It's always a misinterpretation. It's always like, oh, it's the editing. You didn't really see what happened, and da 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 da. I understand with this. There's a lot of editing. There's a lot of things behind the scenes that we are not seeing. I think the audience get that. But that doesn't take away from what we're seeing right now on film. Okay? Your behavior is your behavior. The producers didn't chop that up. You can visibly see that Liz is like really uncomfortable, but I guess she wants to seem like, I don't know, I think sometimes people think more about what they quote unquote should do, what's the quote unquote right thing to do, versus what's genuine, because you can clearly see that Liz is uncomfortable, and instead of being true to that, I feel like a part of her wants to be, that Christian lady and give that Christian forgiveness, instead of truly listening to her gut and her feelings, right? Like, God gave you your intuition, right? So maybe you should listen to that. And if you feel uncomfortable, stay true to that. If people are going to judge you and say, oh, you're petty, you're this, which I don't think the audience is going to do, because I'm pretty sure a majority of people are looking at David like he's cuckoo, right? So instead of thinking about that, just be honest with how you're feeling and stay true to that. And just be like, you know what, David? It's cool, but don't touch me right now. Go back and sit down. Go back and sit down. Because consistently with this guy, how he acted during the show, how he's acting now, even with the password thing, this guy has an issue with boundaries. Straight up. So I wouldn't want him anywhere near me. I wouldn't want him touching me. I don't want him trying to kiss me, even on the cheek. Forget about it. Like, ugh. Creepy, creepy, creepy. Jason and Liz. Aww. I'm happy that at least freaking one couple out of the season seems to be doing well. It's usually like that each season. There's usually like maybe one couple that are still together. So I'm glad it's Liz and Jason. I do like them together. Hopefully, maybe they can be the first cast members to be engaged, to maybe even be married. Like, that would be great because, I mean, let's be real, the show could use that promo because I don't think any of the couples have really lasted, right? One thing, because we can't always just be positive, right? We got to point out things that are going wrong or things that we don't like, right? Of course. One teensy wincy little thing, when Uncle Tommy, uncle, nephew, whatever, asks Liz and Jason, so what do you like about each other, right? Liz gave a lot of things about Jason that she liked, right? He's, he has a good relationship with God, he's honest, good communication, he's consistent, he makes me feel safe, yada, yada, yada. But when it came to Jason to tell the things that he liked about Liz, it felt more like he was comparing Liz to other women, aka Kyra. Let's be real. Because I didn't really understand when he was saying she knows how to be pursued. She knows how to put herself in a position to be pursued. I have absolutely no clue what that means. I can't even pretend. I can't even come up with something like, what does that mean? She knows how to be pursued. So even in that moment, I feel like he was taking digs at Kyra, or he was comparing Liz to other women. Like, oh, compared to other women, Liz is like this. And then he said, oh, she's strong. What does that mean, she's strong? So if anything, I mean, let's be real, like some guys or a lot of guys tend to kind of look at women as an accessory to them, right? And it's more so how they fit into their lives. Because, I'm gonna be real, it didn't really seem like Jason knew a lot about Liz by that. I'm not saying he doesn't, but by his description of what he likes about Liz, it just felt more so like, oh, Liz fits into my world. Liz makes it easy for me. It was all about him and his convenience, not so much Liz the person, right? And I'm just hoping it's more so of being put on the spot and it's kind of hard to think of something. But I don't know, that kind of wave the flag, it's maybe not a red flag, but it is kind of pink, maybe hot pink flag, of when someone asks you what do you like about this person and you can't really come up with anything substantial, and the most you can kind of come up is that they make it easy for me, they kind of fit into my world. I mean, but I'm still rooting for them. They make a cute couple. I hope it's real. I hope it's lasts. Yay!